Hey guys, welcome to the quarantine school. This is our first biology session, and today we'll be beginning with the unit reproduction. So, more specifically, the chapter of reproduction in organisms. This whole unit consists of 14 marks for your final board exams. So, yeah, let's begin. The chapter reproduction in organisms mainly revolves around these two concepts, asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. So today we in this video we'll learn about the topic of asexual reproduction. So as you know, from the very beginning of making of this universe and of the earth, there was a gradual process going on the surface of earth, which was evolution. So in evolution, we have seen that many organisms have evolved into something what we are standing today. So basically, what's in a life? We grow or we give birth to someone, those grow and they die. So the period from the birth of the child to the death of the organism is known as a lifespan. Which is they have given here. The period from birth to the natural death of an organism represents its lifespan. So lifespan is like in years, days, months, it could be anything. The highest and the longest lifespan recorded on Earth is of the sequoia trees. It's of 3000 to 4000 years. And also, not to forget, we have our unicellular organisms who are immortal. They can live for as long as they want on this planet and in this universe. So, for example of unicellular organisms, it's amoeba. So we'll look onto some organisms given on the next page, and you will see a varying differences in their lifespan. And also the lifespans are not dependent upon the sizes. You will see that the sizes of the crows and parrots are not very different, but their lifespans have a huge differences. So let's see. So here we have the elephant first. So elephants approximately lifespan is of 48 years. Okay, you can note it down. It's of 48 years. Next we have the rose plant. So rose plant, we know it's a perennial plant. Perennial means it can flower all throughout the year. Okay, so rose plant has an lifespan of 7 to 8 years. Next, coming to dogs. In dogs also, it's mostly around the highest lifespan of a dog is of approximately around 13 to 15 years. Then butterfly, as I mentioned, it's of 1 to 2 weeks. Then there is crow, which is of 15 years. So here you can see the crow has the same, most similarly, somewhat similar shape to the shape and size of the parrot, but you can see the differences in their lifespan. Crow has a lifespan of 15 years, whereas a parrot has of 140 years. So lifespan doesn't depend on the size of the organism. We can conclude it from here. Next we have the banana tree. So banana tree has approximately the lifespan of 6 years. Yes, 6 years. Then we come to the cow. Cow has a lifespan of 18 to 22 years. Crocodile, as I mentioned here, it's of 60 years. Horse, horse's lifespan is of 25 to 30 years. Then we have fruit fly, whose lifespan is very short. It's of 40 to 50 days. And then we have the rice plant, which has a lifespan of 3 to 7 months. Then the tortoise, the longest living marine animals, I think so. They have 100 to 150 years. And then there's banyan tree of 309 years. Okay, so after all this, as I mentioned earlier, between the stages of birth and death, there is a long productive stage known as the growth. So growth is basically divided into three stages. First is the juvenile. So let's take our case here. Juvenile means what? In human, it means infant. When we are infant, when we are a baby. So juvenile, we are developing. We are preparing ourselves to reach a point where we are capable of reproducing. So, juvenility is a phase in organisms where the organism is developing and it's preparing for the capacity to reproduce. Okay, after this comes the stage of maturity. At maturity, it's basically different organisms have grown to a larger extent in their life. For humans, attaining maturity is when we are adolescent, when we come to our adolescent stage. So at that stage, we have attained our maturity and we are being able to reproduce. Then there's the last, very close to the death. That stage is known as aging and senescence. Now, aging and senescence are two different words. Aging means a slow, progressive deterioration. So, as we are aging, our immune system weakens, our bones are less strong or they are weak. And senescence is stage where gamete reproduction stops and total ill functioning of reproductive tissues leading to death. So, aging is like slow deterioration of everything, whereas senescence is like we are very close to the death. Okay, now let's see about the immortal organisms. Have you wondered how vast number of plant and animal species have existed on earth for several thousands of years? This is because of the process I mentioned earlier. It's because of the evolution that has taken place on our earth. And for the immortal organisms like amoeba and unicellular organisms, why are they immortal? Because their parents are continuously undergoing cell division. So they are basically immortal in that way. Now we come to the main part, which is the reproduction. So as we can see, they have defined reproduction as a biological process in which organisms gives rise to young ones similar to itself. So reproduction is a process where there is a parent which reproduces and there is an offspring. It may be similar to itself or it may be different from itself. The offspring grow, mature and turn to produce new offspring. So from here we can clear it out that there is a cycle of birth, growth and death, as I mentioned earlier in my lecture. So reproduction enables the continuity of species generation after generation. Yeah, guys, let's see the point to be noted over here. As I mentioned, it's because of reproduction throughout evolution. It's because of reproduction also that there has been variations and there has been increase in the number and there has been continuity of the species generation after generation. We'll come to this point more specifically in the later chapters, which is principles of inheritance and variation. Now, let's move ahead. There is a large diversity in biological world, and each organism has evolved its own mechanism to multiply an offspring. So yeah, looking at this point, you know that not all organisms reproduce by just one parent cell divided into two daughter cells, or like we humans who give birth in their womb, mothers give birth to the child in their womb. Not all organisms. Different organisms have different ways to reproduce according to their evolution and the habitat. So, this reproduction is mainly because of few factors: the organism's habitat, its internal physiology, and several other factors are collectively responsible on how the organism reproduces. Based on weather, also there is this how many organisms are there. So if it's just single without the fusion of gametes, then it's asexual. When offspring is produced by single parent with or without the involvement of gamete formation, the reproduction is asexual. Whereas when two parents of opposite sex participate in the reproductive processes and also involve fusion of male and female gametes, it's known as sexual reproduction. So from here, further on, we will start start with our chapter, but let's focus on that point. So, as you can see, the diagram besides that, it's of an amoeba. So, amoeba is slowly and slowly dividing its cell, its nucleus, its DNA. So, from one parent, it's the DNA and the cell body has been divided into two daughter cells. Okay, so here's only one parent, and there is no gamete formation also. It's just the formation of the constriction at this place. You see the constriction which has caused the parent cell to divide into two daughter cells. Okay, but in our cases, when it comes to humans, when there is a male and the female, and there is a reproductive process in which there is a fusion of male and female gametes respectively from the male and female parent, then it's called a sexual reproduction. Now let's come to our topic of the day, which is the asexual reproduction. So as I told you, in asexual reproduction there is a single parent and there is no participation of gametes or fusion of gametes in this whole process. So in asexual reproduction, in this method, a single individual parent is capable of producing an offspring. As a result, the offsprings are produced not only identical to one another but are exact copies of their parent. So as you can see, this amoeba picture over here, the parent and the daughter look exactly the same. They are not just morphologically, but genetically they are also similar individuals because the DNA which was there with the parent has been divided into just two. So it's the similar DNA what the parent had and what the daughter cells have. So this term, the term clone, is used to describe such morphologically and genetically similar individuals. Okay, we have another example over here. See, there's a binary fission in amoeba which we saw, and there's this budding in yeast. So there is this parent yeast, and then there is a outgrowth, a bud on the parent, outgrowth on the so it, see that there is a separation of DNA over here. The same DNA has been passed on to the child also, so the child is no different than the parent. That's what in asexual reproduction also. Let's come to this point. Cytoplasm deals with the cytoplasm and nucleus. Here in the cytoplasm, they just have cytoplasm and the nucleus. Okay, now asexual reproduction. It's not just budding in yeast and binary fission in amoeba. There are also different processes. Let us see how widespread asexual reproduction is among different groups of organisms. Asexual reproduction is common among single-celled organisms and in plants and animals with relatively simple organizations. Not high organisms, highly developed organisms like us can undergo asexual reproduction in any part of our life. So these asexual reproduction is very common in protists, monerans. The organisms or parent cell divide into two to give rise to new individuals, as we saw in the amoeba one. First, in these organisms, cell division itself is a mode of reproduction. So let's make a note over here that in asexual reproduction, cell division is also a mode of reproduction. Okay, now coming through this diagram. So let's first read it out and then we'll come back to the diagram. Many single-celled organisms reproduce by binary fission, where a cell divides into two halves and each rapidly grows into an adult. So this we have seen before in amoeba, how a single parent cell divides into two halves. See, there is a single parent cell, there is a development of constriction, there is a dividing of the DNA, the whole cell body, into two daughter cells which are similar to the parent. Okay, and it's of equal division, not that one amoeba is small and one is large. Two equal halves, and each grows into an adult. In yeast, whereas the division is unequal and small buds are produced that remain attached to parent initially, which eventually get separated and mature from new yeast organisms. So see, over here there is a parent, there is a small outgrowth, the bud. Till the bud doesn't mature totally, it doesn't get detached from the parent, and the slight wall between the bud, offspring and the parent is known as a septa. You may have to note it. The wall between the parent and the bud is known as a septa. It's a constriction, as we have in amoeba. Okay. Uh, in yeast, the division is unequal and small buds are produced and mature into new yeast organisms. Most members of the kingdom fungi and simple plants such as algae reproduce through special sexual reproductive structures. So the kingdom fungi, where we have the agaricus, which is commonly known as mushroom or aspergillus, and some plants such as algae, which belong to the thallophyta group, they have special reproductive structures or sexual reproductive structures, and these are mostly called as the zoospores that are usually microscopic motile structures. You can only see them under microscope. Other common asexual reproductive structures are conidia, which is present in penicillium, buds in hydra, and gemmules in sponge. So let's see. Here it's a chlamydomonas, and those flagellated microscopic organisms which are coming out of this parent cell are known as the zoospores. They have flagella, so they are motile, and as of chlamydomonas also has two flagellas which helps them in moving. They are unicellular. They cannot be seen with naked eye. They can only be seen under the view of a microscope, and they are endogenous, means they grow inside the parent cell. Okay, moving next, we have conidia spores of the penicillium. Penicillium, okay, so we can see penicillium can be seen with the naked eyes because it belongs to a group of plants, and we can see the growing spores, which are the conidia spores, on the parent as an outgrowth. So, and these are non-motile. It belongs to the kingdom of fungi. They can be seen with naked eye. Okay. Now we come to the next. We have buds in hydra. It's this small thing or the offspring is known as a bud. Also can be called as an outgrowth or a protuberance. Okay. Now hydra has this special thing, the tentacles, which is there as a kind of defense, means to defend themselves from the prey. Okay, they have a mouth, or it is also known as a hypostome. Hypostome. This long middle part is known as a stalk, and in between it's the gut. Okay, so in hydra, as in yeast, the bud grows on the body of the parent, and then after it matures fully, it gets detached from the parent body. Okay, next we have gemmules in sponge. It is also an endogenous inside the parent body, whereas in hydra it's an exogenous. So inside the this whole big thing is a sponge, and inside these the small spores are known as the gemmules. Moving on to next. Okay, we have come across this thing known as the vegetative reproduction in our previous classes in class 11th. Now here comes the question, like, is vegetative reproduction also a type of asexual reproduction, and why to say so? Even if it, then why? Is the term clone applicable to the offspring formed of vegetative reproduction? So here, these are all the examples of vegetative reproduction. We'll look at them one by one. While in animals, the term asexual is used, like in amoeba, paramecium, the term asexual is used. In plants, the term vegetative reproduction is used frequently. In plants, units of vegetative propagation are known as runner, rhizome, sucker, tuber, offset, bulb. These are all different types of asexual reproduction belonging to the plant, so we call it a vegetative propagation. All are capable of giving rise to new offspring. These structures are known as vegetative propagules. So now let's look at the potato. We obviously all have seen the potato. Okay, the potato has these small eyes which are capable of growing buds on it, or the offsprings we can say. This is a type of vegetative propagation, and these eyes or germinating eye buds are known as propagules. So if you detach them and sow them in the soil, they will grow into new potato plants. Okay, next we have the ginger, which is a rhizome. The rhizome, all these adventitious roots and the buds on the ginger can lead to the propagation of new plants of ginger. Then we have the example of bulbil of agave. Then there is bryophyllum, leaf buds. The leaf buds which grow on the margin of the bryophyllum, if we sow them into the seeds, they are vegetative propagules. They grow into new bryophyllum plants. Offset of water hyacinth. Water hyacinth is also known as Eichhornia crassipes. We'll look forward through it in the next session. Okay, and to also mention, juvenile phase in plants is known as vegetative phase. So where we have juvenility in organisms or the infant stage in humans, in plants it is known as a vegetative phase. Now let's come to the last part. You must have heard about the scourge of water bodies or about the terror of Bengal. This is nothing but about the aquatic plant water hyacinth we just saw above here. This is a water hyacinth, and there is this mainly frequently asked question like, which is the plant which has caused the terror of Bengal? So the answer is it's water hyacinth. And what are the reasons? It's one of the most invasive weeds found growing wherever there is standing water. It drains oxygen, this is the first reason, which leads to the death of the fishes, which is the next reason, and also that it was introduced in India because of its beautiful flowers and shapes of leaves. But since it can propagate vegetatively at a phenomenal rate and spread all over the water body in a short period of time, it is very difficult to get rid of them. So they have a large capacity of vegetative propagation. They can propagate in a few minutes or few days over the whole water body, which can drain oxygen which is needed by the aquatic life like the aquatic plants and the aquatic fishes which may die due to lack of oxygen. Now, coming next, are you aware how plants like potato, sugarcane, banana, ginger, dahlia are cultivated? It is because, as I mentioned earlier, in the potato plant, we have this eyes, germinating eye buds. These have the potential to grow into new potato plants. So yes, have you seen small plants emerging from the buds called eyes of the potato tuber from rhizomes of the ginger and banana? When you determine the site of origin, these basically all the buds of the potato and all the rhizome of the ginger, they grow at some specific parts of the plant, or part of the plant or the potato or ginger. It is known as the nodes present in the modified stems. To recollect you, both potato and ginger are modified stems, which we had studied in 11th standard in anatomy and morphology of plants. When nodes come in contact with damp soil or water, they produce roots and new plants. Similarly, adventitious buds arise from the notches of leaves present at the margins of bryophyllum. You can also note this. They produce roots and finally a new plant. This ability is fully exploited by gardeners and farmers. Okay, we know all Indian farmers how not basically Indian farmers, all the people around the world, we have been using natural resources for our own benefits and we are exploiting, like hens in captivity, like the poultry farm, the dairy management. It's because we exploit their ability to produce some useful things. So here also, to grow some plants like bryophyllum and potato, they take out these their vegetative propagules and go on cropping them, which will lead to increasing number of plants. It is interesting to note that asexual reproduction is a common method for reproduction in organisms that have relatively simple method of reproduction just before the onset of adverse conditions. Now let me give you a fun and a interesting thing over here. Like we can we have something to protect ourselves. We have defense mechanisms and we have our hands and legs to protect ourselves. But when these asexually reproducing organisms have some adverse conditions like uh, blowing winds which may tether them from their ground, they have a process of encystation, or they cover themselves or coat themselves with uh, some cyst. It is known as a cyst, and the process is encystation. They these develop a hard covering called cyst around them during adverse conditions, so that they don't get blown away or carried away by the phenomenal or climatic changes which are happening around them. Why is sexual reproduction favored under such conditions? Because sexual sexual reproduction is more kind of a protective mode for these asexually reproducing organisms to save themselves from being rotted from the ground or wherever these organisms grow. Asexual, vegetative, as well as sexual modes of reproduction are exhibited by higher plants. On the other hand, only sexual mode of reproduction is present in most of the animals. So we animals belonging to the class of mammalia, okay, and aves and other phylums which have animals in them, we can only have sexual reproduction within us. But whereas these plants have an fascinating property of incestation or going into a sexual mode of reproduction to save themselves from adverse conditions they are surrounded by. Okay, now let me give you a fun fact over here. There are some organisms known as the coicervates, which were the rock-like first evolved organisms on Earth. And obviously, we all know that origin of life began in water. So coicervates were the organisms which had an aquatic habitat. Okay, this is for today's class, and from next class I will give you a short recap about what we have studied here, and then we'll move on to our next topic, which is the sexual reproduction. Bye for then. Please like and subscribe our channel if you like our videos, and if you are understanding anything. If you have any doubts, please clear them in the comment section. See you in the next video.